Testing, 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 1, 2, 3. Testing, 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 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing. Testing, 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 testing. Testing.
Testing, testing. Right. Right, sit down and shut up.
It's a good room. Thanks everyone for coming down so early. I heard on the news it was going to be Armageddon with the weather this morning, so I was quite pleasantly surprised. All right, welcome to Morning Startup. Does everyone know who we are? I'm Scott Glue. I'm a founder of a startup about 10 years ago, and this is Dave Newman. Same.
Are you technically a startup? I suppose it was a startup 10 years ago.
Yeah, when do we cross that barrier?
When did we cross that barrier? Yes, so my name's Dave Newman, also founder of I can still call myself a startup.
Because why?
Because I'm still under 3 years.
3 years. 3 years is the barrier.
3 years, I believe. 3 to 5 years is the barrier at which you can stop calling yourself a startup.
Does anyone have a startup or a company older than 3 years? Good, because I would have shown you the door. You're not a startup.
Yeah. Scott.
Anyway. So if you haven't been to Morning Startup before, we do this every 2 weeks. We also have Founder Sundowner on the first Wednesday of every month. So the whole idea is just getting founders and smart entrepreneurs and people in the startup space under the same roof as often as possible, so you can get to know each other and do a bit of startup therapy, work out your own problems and things like that. So thanks for coming along. What we like to do first of all is some shameless plugs and announcements.
So who's brave enough? We know who the new people are. Who's brave enough to stand up? Curtis, give someone else a chance, mate. 1 second, we'll come to you. We'll make you last and most prominent.
It's probably about 20 seconds, just like a bit of a hey, I'm Scott. I run a company called Fast View, and this is what I'm looking for a technical co-founder or whatever. Come on, there's got to be a few out there.
It's a different event.
All right, let's go.
Just a quick message. Hi, I'm Matt, startup coach here. I work here in Riff. We're doing, for AJSWA, Australian Japan Society of Western Australia, we're doing an event called Business Opportunities for Collaboration between WA and Japan here Thursday night on the 21st. If anyone's interested, we're looking at the startup innovation scene, exploring a few other sectors as well. If you're interested, come see me after in the networking session. We can talk a little bit more about it. Otherwise, you can find the link on my profile on LinkedIn. Anyway, come and see me after that. We can talk.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt.
Anybody want to stand up and pitch their idea or what they're working on, or introduce yourself, and also have an ask?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jagrup. I'm the co-founder and CEO at VVolt. We are a local Perth-based tech company, and we are building software solutions for electric vehicle charging infrastructure. So if you are involved in EV space, please come and have a chat with me. I'm sure there's some synergies that we can explore. And it's my first time attending the morning startup, so thank you for having me.
Are you looking for people to offer their home for an electric charging station, things like that?
Absolutely.
Okay, if you've got a PowerPoint out the front of your house and you want to earn some sweet cash charging vehicles.
Anybody else brave enough? Or I'll do a... No worries, I will go to Curtis then. I'll give him the floor.
Yeah,
Come on,
yes.
Curtis, don't disappoint.
All right. You're on the clock, 30 seconds, mate.
Righto. Ardith Energy, water security, food security. But I'm going to have some fun now. Scott. David. Whoop, sorry. Matt. Right? Bloody awesome job. I'm networking seriously. Right? I'm a regional bloke. Right? Katie. Awesome. Right? I didn't have socks for you, sorry. But really, my plan is to knock the socks off you. Right? Right? Because I've got... Oh, look, it's my passion, right? My purpose, you know. You can't stop me. So I'm going to knock your socks off. These guys, awesome. Be like this is the room to be in. Perth, Western Australia, right? I've got the chance to go global with what I want to do. And it started here. And it's with you guys. So you guys are awesome being here, you know, because it's networking with you, building that business, you know. But what is business? Yeah, we're solving a problem for people. People helping people. That's the core of it.
Nice. Well, thanks, Curtis. I let that go on a little bit longer because it was so nice for us.
It works, doesn't it? Be
I like
nice
it.
to people.
Hey, Curtis, what are you looking for at the moment? What do you need?
Got Matt, right, next week.
You're looking for Matt?
I'm getting time off work to be here in the room to talk about business development opportunities with Japan.
But you're helping to irrigate land,
Yeah,
right?
Like, my thing is saline water irrigation of farmland.
Cool.
Right, that's the big problem. Drought management with saline water. Long term, a seawater application, making seawater economically viable for farmland irrigation globally.
All right. Well, thanks, Curtis. Good luck. Cheers, mate.
Don't wish me luck. I've got it. Born in Western Australia, 5th generation off the farm. Right?
Nice.
I grew up in Bustleton.
I was there on the weekend.
Anyone else? Shameless plug, announcement, anything cool happening in Perth that you want to shout out? No. All right, we'll move on. Founder Sundowner, like I said, first Wednesday of every month over at Nowhere Man Brewery, which has just been acquired by Other Side. And we should have Reese from Nowhere Man hopefully later this year talking about the whole acquisition process and all that. It should be fun. Do you guys know about this?
Can I ask a question? Is there no Roto Fest this year? It doesn't look like there is.
Like it. There's going to be a coast. Ah, okay.
Do we know why that was? Okay.
It's too hard getting
Too
everyone
hard.
on a boat.
Well, I'll ask.
Booking at Roto because there was some change of hands there or something, and issues around.
Okay.
Okay.
At least we don't have to worry about missing the ferry anymore. Just-
Yeah. I used to stay over. I stayed over last week and one of it last year, and it was a good event. It was a good event. Cool.
Well, if you don't know about West Tech Fest, it's happening 4th to 8th of December. Head to westtechfest.com or something, search for it, and buy your ticket. Ready to go. There's probably a whole bunch of events happening that week. And
I think you've got Women in
it's gonna be
Tech, you've got
exciting.
Coast, you've got West Tech Fest, the main event, you've got obviously the great event on the Thursday, which is the Frio Fest.
Yeah, Frio
So
Fest is
definitely
awesome.
worth getting to.
Cool. All right, and we've just got a few people that we'd like to thank for helping us out, put this on. So the first is the Department of Jobs, Tourism, Science and Innovation with their New Industries Fund. Get around it. They have a whole bunch of things like the Innovation Booster Grants. They help investors fund startups. whole bunch of things, and also go to wa.dealroom.co and put your startup information on that website. So it helps. It's like a tracking system for the Perth innovation community. Yeah, and they help us with the live stream, which is brought to us by Perth Video.
Thank you very much, Perth Video. If you want to go back and watch it, it's available. I'm sure we'll make it, we'll let them know where it is. But I think we were putting it on YouTube as well for a bit, weren't we?
Yeah, if you go to YouTube and subscribe to Morning Startup, I think you can see this live stream right now. But there's also a page with all of our past events on perthvideo.com.au. Thank you, Jürgen and Reese and all the guys there. Ammo Marketing. I see we've got Jack in the audience today. How you doing?
Thank you, Jack. And I loved watching your kind of like was it 9 days or 10 days of how to do things? Great. If you ever want to check out some great information, then check out Ammo Marketing. Check out all the content material they put out, especially the Weird Growth Podcast.
Weird Growth
Podcast. Yes, that's what happens when you have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
All right. I don't think we got Glenn in the audience, but...
No, he's an apology.
Yeah. Do you want to...
Yeah, if you're looking for recruitment, Glenn's been a big advocate of the startup ecosystem since we started back in 2012. And now, if you're looking for your next job or you're looking to recruit something, then give Glenn a good call and he'll kind of put you on the right track.
Keep space. Is anyone in the e-commerce game shipping stuff around? Good. So they have a warehouse here in Perth and a warehouse in Melbourne, if you're in that sort of 3PL, I believe is the acronym. It's not my world. But yeah, they can help you out with that. They can also help you fill your bellies because they've supplied the food at the back this morning. So thank you very much to Jesse and the team at Keep Space.
And on that note, who saw Shark Tank? So big shout out to Lucas and his mum and the Glossy Boys. They got investment. If you're watching or you're doing it later, congratulations. It's great to see you kind of kicking goals.
Well done, Lucas. Legend. There was another Perth startup on that, the Nostalgia Box. They didn't get funding.
Do they not?
Never mind, Nostalgia Box. Next time. And TechOn, we've got Hayley at the back there. Who needs developers? Good. Don't all start out at once. They can help you out with developers. They've got an awesome team over in Nepal. They manage the whole thing from here in Perth, so they're very, very cost effective. They know their stuff. React, WordPress, anything you need. Awesome.
And coffee.
Oh, and coffee. Oh, how could I forget? So Joey Zazas out the front, just tell them you're at Morning Startup. They'll give you a coffee. Thanks to TechOn. I can't believe I forgot that.
Yes, and we'll whiz through these. Obviously, thank you to Space Cube. They give us this space for free every 2 weeks, and we bring you beautiful people here. If you haven't subscribed, check out Startup News every Friday. Golden piece of nugget in your inbox about what's happening here in the ecosystem. For those of you who are slightly disconnected from the ecosystem, like myself, then it's always good to get that email on a Friday to see who's kicking some goals. I know that there's been some shortlisting on the +8 teams. I don't know if it's been made public yet, so I'll keep quiet because I know who I'm mentoring. But congratulations to the teams that have come through, and we'll see hopefully some great stuff from them. I don't know if they're pitching again, if it's being tied in with West Tech Fest, and they'll be pitching at that event in the evening. But good luck to everyone that got through on +8. And last but not least, Startup WA. I don't know if you had a chance to read the report that came out recently, is it the Mesh Points report? Something like that. There's a report that's come out about the WA. You were in it, my friend. Wow. There's a picture of you in it. You should read it. It's just great work that Startup WA are doing, for being advocates between the startup ecosystem here in WA and the government. And last but not least, TechBoard for, if you want to get some news out, claim your profile on TechBoard. It's a good way of getting information out into the bigger, wider system.
You got that, everyone? Get around them. These guys are running the Perth startup community. So, if you're in it, you want to know about them, make sure you're subscribed and all that stuff. Get in touch with us, Morning Startup, on all the things, Twitter, LinkedIn, make sure you're subscribed, X. And, we're always looking for interesting presenters as well. If you've got an idea for the Perth startup community, we'd love to hear. Make sure you get in touch with us. Cool.
Yeah, I've got a few people that I'd like to introduce in this room.
All right, let's do it.
Startups.
So we've got half an hour of networking after the talk today as well. So, we can get to know each other.
Chat to you about it.
Sweet. This is coming up in 2 weeks' time. hiring people
Yeah.
in Perth is often a pain in the butt.
Yep.
There's great people overseas.
Yep.
Hiring people overseas is also a pain in the butt. She's going to tell you how you can make that easier.
Yeah, so Natasha and her company, Tech Visa, are a great company. We've spoken to them about if we can bring some of our offshore developers onshore and vice versa. And yes, it's a great company. There are a lot of different visas available, 2-year and a 4-year, but Natasha will go through the process. It's not as hard. There's somebody in the room that's witnessed who's been, Gus here, who's actually been through the process. We as a company sponsored him and brought him in. We did try to get rid of him later, but he just... we love you, mate. We love you. It's a lot simpler than you actually think. So Natasha will be here to kind of run you through what it means to bring somebody onshore.
Cool. And just a shameless plug as well, after this one, so in 4 weeks' time, plan to have another pitch event. So we try and do this every 4 months or so, where we give you guys a chance to get up here and practice your pitch in front of this supportive audience and get some feedback and what you could improve on and things. So it's usually, depending how many startups we get applying, like a 3-minute pitch to a 5-minute pitch, and then a bunch of Q&A and sort of like a pitch workshop. So if you're interested in pitching in about 4 weeks' time, contact@morningstartup.com, send us an email and just say, hey, I'm interested in pitching, and send me a quick description of your startup, and we'll slot you in.
Yes, Scott.
All right, we've got one. Get in quick. Any other takers? Who's interested? Okay. All right.
You had 3 minutes.
So it might be a 3-minute pitch, we'll see.
Game on.
All right, cool. And that is formalities out of the way.
Will Charlie
It's getting better. It's getting better. I think in a couple of years' time they will laugh.
Will Charlie be in the room when I pitch?
We could see if we can make that
make him. We can see if we can get him as a judge. Yeah.
I'll just do 3 minutes, I promise.
All right.
We will clap.
3 minutes.
We will. It will be timed.
You will be
clapped
clapped.
out. So cool. All right. I don't know about you guys, but I've always been very keen to know the various ways I can fuck up my startup. And we've got a guy who's going to tell us all of those ways and hopefully how to avoid them. So James Bryant was introduced to me about a month ago. Had one of the best conversations I've had over a Zoom call, and he's a really interesting dude. And I think you've got a video and a whiteboard. Yeah. So rather than the traditional slide deck thing, it's going to be cool. Please make him welcome James Bryant.
Yes, it's fun to be here. This is a 2-person operation. Okay. It's really good to be here. I'd never heard about this, but I wish I had a long time ago. Do we have various, or just, we have more than one. Okay, cool. So I was kind of thinking about what I was going to talk about this morning, and I thought about it for a while, and I thought, why do we start new things? Why do we start something new instead of just doing what's always been done? We're bored. Yes, I've started many things and I get bored very easily. Yeah. We want to change something, right? What's been happening isn't it. And so I thought about, in that line of why we start things up, and the whole point of startups is to change something. I was thinking about, I was like, okay, the biggest, so I wanted to dive into what the biggest fuck up we can make along the way. By the way, I want to check, are we okay with swearing in here? Put up your hand if you're not. I hope my mum's not watching. My mum is the person in this world who is least okay. I think the Pope is more okay with swearing than my mother is. So can we ban an IP from watching the live stream? So I want to figure out how do we actually explore possibly the biggest fuck up we can make while we're doing a startup to change things. And so just a bit about my background. So I've had to write down because in startups I've started 3 not-for-profits, a gym, a tech company, and a leadership training company, and 4 of them are still operating, which I think is an okay, strike rate. I'm not involved with most of them anymore. I'm only involved in one of them because I get bored. But I've started a lot of things because the person, the noble answer is why do we start things? We need to change something. There's a little bit of that, but mostly for me, it's I get bored. And so I've done this thing for a while now, so who knows how much longer I'll be doing what I currently do. Here's a question for you then. Yeah, we can do it in little groups. We're going to break up into a group for 2 to 3 minutes, and you guys are going to discuss in your little groups. By the way, there's some great people in this room. I met Rosemary. Anyone here met Rosemary before? Rosemary, hi. My sister is called Rosemary, so I've got an affinity for Rosemary. Like, you're awesome, because my sister's one of my favourite people on the planet. But Rosemary's a genius. She's amazing. If you haven't met Rosemary, you need to meet Rosemary before this day is done. And so if you get to talk with Rosemary during this time, then you are truly very lucky. But what we're going to do is break up into groups of 2 or 3, and in that groups of 2 or 3, you're going to discuss how do you know if a startup is successful? Okay, so group of 2 or 3, how do you know if a startup is successful? And this is when people who are introverts are like, I'm going to kill that guy.
What's that? When do you play video? Just be able to escape.
Yeah. All right. I think we could probably discuss this for at least a half hour, right? But what did we come up with? Who wants to share what was shared in the group or by one individual in the group, depending on how the group dynamics went? Group dynamics are fascinating to me. All right, so, yeah, group dynamics are hilarious to me. So who wants to share some thoughts that came out in the discussion or the presentation by one person in your group, depending on how your group went? How'd you go? I love that you put food in your mouth, then you immediately put your hand up.
I'm Harry.
Hey, Harry.
You don't have to turn around.
Just the live stream.
Oh, thank you. Oh, yeah, I forgot it's live stream. Do you want me to go in front of the camera then?
Sure. Go ahead.
Come on down, Harry.
Can you hold my sandwich?
For those on the live stream, Harry is trying to grab a bunch of food before he comes down.
Hi everyone. So, what was the question again?
I don't know. You're the one who walked up here.
Okay. So, how do you notice if your startup is successful? Was that it?
Sure. Let's go with that.
Right lines? Cool. It's usually that breakthrough period. That moment when you make a discovery, or you partner with the right person, or you have something physical to show, or something that has proven your concept is real, and you know that you're on a different trajectory, you're heading on a different journey than sort of when you started. That's my experience with it anyway.
Cool. So how would we say that in like 2 words? Because I need to write a list.
Right. Discovery.
Discovery. Excellent.
Yep.
Of
the journey.
Journey.
Great. Yep.
Cool. Great. Thank you, Harry.
Is that enough? Yep.
Sure. Yeah. More than enough.
Anyone else?
How did you guys know?
Yeah, like we discussed for us like 2 things. One is like if we are solving a problem that actually customers need, and customers actually do not go away, come back to actually use these tools or things so that they can solve their problem. And that other thing is like if it is sustainable. If we can sustain it for some times and it persists, then we think it has some values. Yeah, thank you.
Great. So customer retention, is that what I heard?
Yes.
Yeah. And then sustainable. Okay. Yep. Yep.
So we kind of thought about it from a different angle.
Right.
In terms of the definition of success can be a little bit blurred depending on who you are and what your company is.
Yeah.
And so we kind of thought that maybe meeting that founder goal. So my goal might be that I want to be able to pay my mortgage and have flexibility on my hours so I can spend more time with my family.
Yeah.
That could be my definition of success. So I guess that it meets the goal of the founder could be the definition of success.
By the way, whoever made this whiteboard, I like them. Typically whiteboards are about this tall and it's a limbo kind of experience, but this is nice. There's a tall person problem, but this is nice. Anyway.
We talked about survivability as one. But I guess talking to a client yesterday, he said to me that he can see the value. So I think the value add that you provide.
Right.
So
he can see the value.
He saw the value, yeah. So when he says that to me, then I can see, okay, I'm actually making an impact.
Okay. So how do I write this?
It's value add.
Value add, excellent. That's what I thought. I was just making sure I was saying the right thing. Dave.
Right. Okay, everyone. Dave. Probably my favourite definition is when someone wants to give you millions or billions of dollars. That's when you start successful.
Yeah.
But probably the real definition is Steve Blank. So the godfather of startup theory from Stanford. A startup is a temporary organisation in search of a scalable business model.
Ooh.
So once your business model, you've validated all your assumptions, you've found a scalable, basically, model where you can pour X in and get Y out, that's when you're no longer a startup and you have succeeded.
Yeah. His last name is Blank. Yeah. It's quite memorable.
I think we were sort of along the similar lines of meeting founder goals, but I would summarise it maybe as it depends. It might be, for me, it might be the first sale, it might be the exit. So it just depends on what the definition of success is for that team.
Yeah. So how do I write that? Just depends?
It depends.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, last one. Let's go with last one.
That would be short. So achieving a market fit.
What's that? Being
market fit, yeah.
Market fit, yep. So this is where typical whiteboards are. There we go. Back on me. All right, yeah, so these are great. One of the interesting things too is that in seeing all this, you can succeed in every area of your startup and yet still have a couple of major fuck-ups, right? So you might meet your founder goals and be miserable. You might business model scales and then realise that you can't lead a business that big, right? There's a whole bunch of things along the way, and this is why this is such a fraught journey that you're going to go on as you do this. And so today I want to talk about a couple of things that can happen along the way, because for me, one of the greatest crimes is if you set out to solve a problem and to change things and you don't change, right? Because the other thing about your startup is that whatever your startup is right now, wherever you want it to go, you probably aren't the person who can lead it. So how do you become the person who can lead that? So you might have dreams of, the founder goals. Your founder goal might be just pay your mortgage, which is great, but your founder goal might also be to sell your company for $1 billion and to be leading this multi-billion-dollar organisation for it sells for multiple billions. If you aren't the leader that can take it there, and you try to take it there, you are in big trouble. So today I want to talk about a couple of things which are we're going to explore about a few of those things, and I'm going to start off with and it's going to start with an analogy because that makes me sound smarter, and then it's going to be a Venn diagram which makes me sound really smart. So bear with the analogy. So the analogy. So anyone here ever been to a water park before? Like, where you go to the water park? Yeah. So I remember the first time I went to one was in America. I was living over there at the time in Palm Springs. So we went out to Palm Springs. Anyone here been to Palm Springs? It's like, if you lived in the 70s, it was like the coolest place to go. In the 90s, when I went there, it was tired. But it's an amazing place. But there was a water park there called Oasis Water Park, and it had these amazing water slides and stuff like that. There was one which was like this straight drop, and it was terrifying. And so I don't like heights, but I thought I'm going to go on this water. I'm going to go on that water slide. I went on that water slide. I went down. It was one of the scariest things in my life. Like, you're not even on the water slide. You're basically just falling, and then there's a pool at the end. And it was awful. So I go down that, and as a recovery at the end, I decide I'm going to go get in the lazy river. Anyone here know the lazy river? You know where they are? Where there's a water park, and there's, you go around the water. You sit in an inner tube, and you go around the water park, and you hang out in there. And what do you do in the lazy river? Fall asleep. Fall asleep, exactly. And you can do that because you're lying in an inner tube, and the lazy river takes care of everything, and you just go around, and you get to see all kinds of different things, and it's fun until the person who works at the water park tells you that that is the thing that's got the most human waste in it, to put it that way. And it's shut down about once a week for extraction of said waste, and so you probably shouldn't be in it. But it's still fun until you know that information. When you're sitting in that water and you're going around that water park, what's pushing you? Because you move, right? Momentum, right? There's momentum going around, but there's a current. What creates a current? Jets. Who said that? Thank you. Great. I finally got the right question out. I'm like, yes, someone got that right. You know when you're asking the wrong question, which is startup thing? Yeah, I was asking the wrong question. Right? The jets push us around, and they push us around this park, right? Or this lazy river. And they create a current that do that, and there's pumps that are pushing the jets. So I'm going to talk about something, because in life, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of us, for most of our lives, existed in a lazy river. We get taken to this, because in the lazy river, essentially, you're moving and you're making progress, but you're seeing the same things, you're getting the same results, and you're getting things time and time again, and you may as well be sitting there, you're going round and round and round. And so it's, I've got a friend who's, during his dating life, dated a bunch of women, and yet listening to him talk, he had the same complaint about every woman, every time a relationship ended. Or another friend who's had 6 jobs, and every time they're in the job, they're complaining about the boss. And you're like, wait, did your boss change jobs with you? Because you had the exact same complaint about the last job, right? It's the same thing over and over again. Or in our relationship that we're currently in, we have the same arguments. Or we have the same discussions with our co-founders. Or we have the same problems with the teams that we're leading. Different teams, same problem. You know what I'm talking about here, where we get the same results over and over again? Yeah, cool. All right, so we're going to explore some of those things today. So we call these, by the way, my company, Lead Different, we work with organisations. I didn't even tell you what I do. We work with organisations to help people, and the organisations, we call them we build cultural architects, right? How do we create a culture where people thrive? right? And we want people within the organisations, everyone to become a cultural architect in discovering this is how we design and build what we want our culture to be like. So that's what I do. So people are what I'm obsessed with. So, yeah, we call these things survival needs, right? So they're 4 survival needs, and they create jets in our life which take us to the same place over and again. And they can be... They all start with the desire to, right? So the desire to. So the first one here, if you're taking notes, whatever, in your Venn diagram, you have 4 circles, they overlap, right? So the first one is the desire to look good. The desire to look good. So I am fairly tall. I have tall people problems. Nothing compared to when I was in high school and I was in the process of becoming tall. And my limbs were growing at different rates and things weren't working, and so I'd be walking along and all of a sudden I'd be flat on my face on the ground. I have no idea what happened. Right? I've just tripped over because my legs don't work because I'm uncoordinated. Still am uncoordinated. I've learned not to fall as much. But the first thing one of the things I noticed when I look back is every time I fell, so I've tripped over, done the whole like herky-jerky. The first thing I've done when I've fallen over, I'm not checking to see if I'm okay, like what have I broken or whatever. The first thing I've done is, right? What am I worried about? Who saw me? Did anyone notice? And if I've like tripped and I haven't quite fallen over, can I turn the trip into like a dance or something? Like, is there something I can do with that? Like, that's what I'm trying to do here, because this desire to look good. Ever been in a conversation? I can imagine that most of the conversations I get in this morning, you guys can be talking, and I'll be smiling and nodding and having no idea what you're talking about. But I'll be too scared to say, what's that mean? Because I have a desire to look good. This place here. So one of the things. So why are we getting the same results over and over again with this desire to look good? Anyone know that to get good at anything, you have to be bad at it first? So if you want to develop any new skill, Rosemary, you and I were talking about this, where you were talking about you built your own website. That's cool. That's amazing. Did you have to learn a new skill for that?
Yes, I did. I don't like technology whatsoever, but I was going through a real boredom stage, so I thought, well, why not get the brain working and teach myself how to build a website?
Were you good at it at first?
No.
Exactly, right? And so what we do is, if we're lucky, we get to be bad in secret. We can hide that away.
I think an extension of that is when you, for example, in startup when you're building an MVP, that will not look good either.
No.
As an extension of what you're doing when you're developing the skill, the outcome of the result does also not look good. So you've also got to be okay with that.
Yeah, so I was looking around to give you a microphone, but then I was like, yeah, it's all over there. I was like, wait, that looked like I was bored. I was like, no, I was trying to find the mic to hand you. Yeah, exactly. This whole idea, this desire to look good, what is this going to hold us back from? Change. It's going to hold us back from learning new things. It's going to hold us back from discovering new things about ourselves, new ways of operating. This desire to look good is absolutely crippling. The second thing as I look at the time, the second thing is to feel good. This is when we're so obsessed with with avoiding short-term things that we perceive to be painful, we'll do anything we can, go through lots of pain to avoid that one little pain. I was working with one of the most powerful organisations in WA. Not the government, obviously. But I was working with them, and one of their executives there, they were their chief in-house legal counsel. I was working with their whole legal team, and we were doing some stuff, and I was doing some workshops, and I was talking about some stuff, and I got to this point where I was talking about this desire to feel good and how we avoid pain and what the cost is of avoiding pain, and the chief in-house counsel starts crying. I was like, that's new. People usually at least wait half an hour before they start crying when I talk to them. This is very quick. And so she started crying. I'm like, what's going on? And she said, yep, that's my life. I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, well, I graduated in high school. I graduated top of the year, whatever it is. No, is that what it's called? Yeah, ducks. Obviously, I wasn't ducks. Right? So she's graduated ducks of her class, and she's gone to her dad, and her dad said, hey, cool, you're going to be a lawyer or a doctor. And she's like, okay. And so she went into medicine. 2 weeks into medicine, she's like, I don't like blood. So she switched to law. And she hated law, but she hated it a little less than she hated blood. So she went through, and she graduated top of her class in university. What's that? That's called, it's in America we call it something, Yeah, Ballet Victorian, yeah. So she graduated valedictorian, so she got headhunted for all these good jobs, do that, and it ends up, she does really well, does all the law stuff that you need to do to become lawyer. Haven't done that, obviously, and so she's done that, but she's now chief in-house counsel earning lots of money at a very powerful organisation, and miserable. Why? There was a conversation that she thought was too painful and too hard to have with her dad. So she went, rather than let's say it's a long, drawn-out argument of 2 hours, rather than a 2-hour long, drawn-out argument, she would have rather have gone through years of... How many years do you have to study? Any lawyers in here? Anyone know how long it is?
4 to 7.
4 to 7 years. There we go. 4 to 7 years of study. Right, the short-term pain, but how's this show up in my life? So for me, I know, like, tall, thin person, if I don't do lots of regular exercise, my back gets screwed up real fast. Right? I go to the gym, and if I don't do that, if I'm not doing, like, deadlifts and stuff, you can tell I'm a super strong guy, right? You can tell how much I love going to the gym. Right? And so if I don't do that, my back hurts. And we're talking crippled, like can't get out of bed hurts. So... yeah, every day that I'm scheduled to go to the gym, when I'm riding my Vespa, because I ride a Vespa everywhere, it's a little 300cc thing, and it's amazing. If you don't ride a Vespa, you are not the coolest person, right? So I'm riding my Vespa home from work, I'm zooming along on the freeway, and there's an exit that I take to go to my gym, and the next exit is my house. The one that's going to the gym, every time I come to it, I'm like, do I? I don't know. Everyone ever had that battle where you're like, it's going to be painful if I go. It's going to be painful if I go, oh, yeah, no, I'll just go home and order, an extra large pepperoni pizza instead. Pepperoni pizza. Just have a moment of gratefulness for the glory that is pepperoni pizza, right? The comfort that's found in the sweet embrace of the dripping saturated fat and the cheesy goodness in a pepperoni pizza, right? Where I'm choosing, do I do something good for my health or pepperoni pizza, right? And in that moment, more often than not, pepperoni pizza wins, right? Because this desire to feel good. I know what I want to do. I know who I want to become. I know exactly where I want to go. This is where I want to be. This is going to take me there. Pepperoni pizza feels better. Right? This desire to feel good. Right? Who knows that it feels bad when you get stuff wrong? Who knows that it feels bad when you're out of your depth? Who knows that it feels bad when you're discovering things about yourself that you didn't want to know? Who knows that every single one of those things is important for you to become the leader of your startup to take it where you want to take it? If you don't learn to deal with this desire to look good and feel good, you will absolutely fuck up your startup. If you have a culture where people are drawn to look good, because, by the way, this plays out not just on an individual level. Ever been in a meeting where there's one person who wants to look good? And pretty soon, everybody's in on it. We all want to look good. And now we're going nowhere. And we're all just throwing down our name dropping and all that kind of stuff, and we're all full of crap. And this feel good, when you've got someone in your team who's avoiding pain at any cost, and pretty soon it starts spreading. And now you've got a team of people who are all avoiding pain. They're all avoiding difficult conversations. Right? If you want to fuck up your startup, let these run rampant. The third one. Be right. The desire to be right. How many of you know that we jump to a conclusion, then gather all the evidence we can to find that supports it? Right? Very few human beings, and I'm going to say very few, just on the odd case that there's one alive, because I presume there might only be one, who actually looks at all the evidence and then draws a conclusion. We jump to a conclusion, then we gather all the evidence to support. I remember the first time I met she was on my staff. I had a big staff team before COVID. COVID kind of sucked. Lost every contract twice in the period of 3 years. But one of my staff members, first time I met her at an event, and she was speaking at it, and people had been saying, oh, you guys should meet each other because you guys get along really well. And so we're thinking, yeah, we're going to meet. And I thought it would be great. So I'm at an event where she's there, and I walked up, I was like, hey, Sid, great to meet you. My name's James. People have been saying, she said, yeah, people have been saying we want to meet. And then all of a sudden, she looked mad at me. I was like, what is going on? And then over the conversation, I was like, man, Sid does not like me. Then over the next 6 months, I kept meeting Sid. And every time I met her, I was like, whoa, She does not like me. I don't know what I did or what I've done, but that woman cannot stand me. And there are lots of reasons not to like me, but I hadn't exposed any of them to her yet. Like, she didn't know any of them yet, like, right? So I don't know what's happening there. And so finally one day I was like, you know what, I'm going to suck it up. I don't care about feeling good. I'm going to have a difficult conversation. We say, Sid. By the way, I talk really fast. Did anyone notice that? So what you do is you watch it back on replay at like 75% speed and you might catch it. Sid, I don't slow down, sorry. So Sid, I said, Sid, why do you not like me? And she looked at me, she's like, what do you mean? I was like, it's okay, we're going to have this awkward conversation, I'm ready for it. Tell me, why don't you like me? And she's like, I think you're amazing. I'm like, what? I said, the very first conversation we had, you scowled at me and you didn't like me. And I felt like you didn't like me from then on. She's like, what are you talking about? And I said, the very first, and I described her when we first met. And I went into great detail about how the event went down. She said, oh. No, she said, Daniel, a friend of mine, Daniel, went and got me a coffee and he handed it to me and he gave it to me, it was cold. She said, I remember that very distinctly. I remember thinking, oh, God, why am I drinking? This is disgusting. So she's drinking cold coffee thinking this is disgusting. I've interpreted it as Sid thinks I'm disgusting. It's the coffee that's disgusting. And then every little thing that she did after that, I interpreted as Sid doesn't like me, Sid doesn't like me. I told you so, Sid doesn't like me. Right? Because what we do is, as human beings, we have feelings, right? Anyone know what feelings are? Yeah. No? Okay, all right. You are true startup founders. You're sleep deprived and lacking emotion. No. Right? So, but we have feelings. And we want to be right about that feeling, and we get determined to feel that feeling no matter what. So I remember when growing up, my brother and I are quite different. My brother got arrested for the first time at 14, and then numerous times after that. I waited many years till I was arrested for the first time. I was arrested in Mexico because I wouldn't bribe the police. You know, yeah, they were like, there was a car accident. They were like, give us some money. I'm like, no. Like, all right, you're going to jail. Like, what? So I went to jail for 4 hours in Mexico. It's just as fun as you think, especially when you don't speak Spanish. Anyway, so what was I talking about? Oh, my brother got arrested. So my brother gets arrested, and then he gets let off because, you know, whatever, but he's under some strict home supervision. So under home supervision, finally that ends, he's allowed to go out again, go out to parties. Remember, I didn't go out to parties because I was the kid who was tripping over everything, so I'm not going to parties. No one thinks I'm cool, but he's going out to parties. So he's allowed to go out to a party. And so he's finally allowed to go after being locked in home for, you know, whatever, 6 months. And he gets to go out. And my parents want to get really clear with him. Okay, you have to be home by 10 o'clock. If you're not home by 10 o'clock, because they wanted to establish firm boundaries, be home by 10 o'clock, right? And so then he walks out the door at 7:30, and I sit down for a night of watching TV with Mum and Dad. I was the coolest kid. And so I'm sitting up. As soon as my brother walks out the door, my dad turns to my mum and says, he's not going to make it, right? Because he's got evidence of this too, but he's not going to make it. And as the night wears on, my sister Rosemary and I are sitting there at the couch and we're watching my dad get more and more determined that my brother is not going to make it. So by the time we get to like 9:30, my dad's at like DEFCON 5, and my sister and I have gone running to our separate bedrooms. We're like, we're just going to hang out here because he's like, he's not going to make it. I can't believe we let him out of the house. What are we thinking? He's no good. He's not going to get himself in trouble again. All that kind of stuff. And so he goes off on this tangent where he's about it. Now, at 9:55, my brother walks in the door. What was his curfew? 10 o'clock. Has he done anything wrong that we know about? He did. He actually burned down a tractor that night, but we didn't know at that time. But at that time, he's done nothing wrong, right? And so he's walking the door at 9:55. My dad turns to him and starts yelling, "You're cutting it mighty fine!" and starts yelling at him. Why? He wants to be right about how he's feeling. He wants to be right about his opinion of my brother, right? This desire to be right robs us of curiosity. You might have, hey, my business model is going to scale no matter what. This is going to work. I promise you it's going to work. You might want to tweak this. Nope, it's going to work. You want to fuck up your startup? Be right. By the way, you want to fuck up a relationship? Be right. Be in control. Right. Who knows? There is only two things you're in control of. How you perceive the world and how you act, including your words. Those are the only two things you control. Anyone here a parent of young children, or had young children at some point? Who is in agreement? If you can't control a 2-year-old, you have no, but they're tiny. They're somewhat weak, can be strong-willed, but if you can't control them, what hope do you have of controlling anything else in this world? We only control our perceptions and our actions. Everything else is outside of our control. What we like to say at Lead Different is there is an inverse relationship, and it's directly inverse. The more you try to control everything else, the less you control your perceptions and your actions. The less you control everything else, the more you're able to control your perceptions and actions. And what this is things, we do this, we want to be in control because we want to advocate responsibility of being in control of our perceptions and actions. And taking responsibility for our perceptions and actions. So how does this play out? So I ran a leadership training program. One of the participants graduated. She went and started her own company. One of her things in the company, she was running events. She needed a speaker for her event. She said, James, can you speak at my event? I said, yes, I can speak at your event. What time's your event? She said, 7 o'clock. Okay, I'll get there at 6:30 to make sure that there's a whiteboard that works because I don't use slides. I'll make sure there's a whiteboard that works. And so I'll get there at 6:30. So she says, great. Now, that day, I looked on Google Maps. If I'm going to get there at 6:30, I was going to need to leave at 6 o'clock to get there at 6:30. And I've checked that out on Google Maps, set an alarm to leave at 6 o'clock. I go home from work, I'm hanging out with my kids because I'm not going to be there this is when they were little, and if I'm not going to be there to tuck them in at night, I want to spend some time with them before that. Hanging out with the kids. It was raining and pouring out with rain, so we're wrestling. The favourite thing for my boys to do is to wrestle on the 2 little boys, wrestle on mummy and daddy's bed, where I'm throwing them up in the air and they're like, ah! And they think it's the best thing, right? Because they don't break, so it's awesome fun. For me too, because I'm like, this is great, I'm throwing little people into the air and they're just bouncing. So we're doing that. Now, at my alarm goes off to leave at 6 o'clock. I'm like, oh, I need to get ready to leave. Right? So I quickly get changed, brush my teeth, grab my whiteboard markers, and then leave. So by the time I've left, it's like at least 9 minutes past 6, right? And so I've walked out the door and it's pouring with rain. And now in Perth, how do we go when it rains in Perth with the traffic at 10 past 6? What do you think it's going to be like? Yeah, it's an absolute parking lot. So I'm sitting there, and as I'm driving along with this, like, man, I can't believe I'm going to be late. Because, when isn't that annoying? The Google Maps or Apple Maps, whatever you use, and it tells you what time you're going to get there, which is just adds to it's like, it's just someone nagging you, just like a nagging parent. It's like, you're looking at it. It's not saying anything, but every time you look at your maps, you're like, yeah. So it's telling me that I'm going to get there at 6:39. I'm thinking, oh, I can't believe this. And so as I drive along, I'm thinking, I can't believe this rain. It's because of the rain that I'm going to be late. I just need to stop the rain. If I could stop the rain, stop raining. And then every red light I get to come to, I'm looking at the red light. Change. I'm trying to control red lights. Cars that are in front of me, I'm trying to lift them out of the way using the force or something. I'm absolutely trying to control all these things way outside of my control. Why? Because I gave up responsibility for the 2 things I can control, my perceptions and my actions, and I don't want to have to take responsibility of it, right? And so we try to control everything else. If you want to fuck up your startup, try to control everything other than your perceptions and your actions. Try to control your team member. Try to control your potential customers. Try to control the people, your stakeholders. Micromanage. You will absolutely fuck up your startup trying to do this. So how much longer do I have, by the way? How many? 5 minutes. Okay. Can I get someone who knows what they're doing, Scott, to come down and I want to show you a little video, because one of the things is I drew this as a Venn diagram, not just to look smart, but these things absolutely interplay with one another, right? Where they intersect with one another, and let me do a wheel. There you go. These things interplay with one another, the way they interact with each other. Now, on this video, the fun thing is, so we're watching a guy driving a car. At this stage, he's doing 40 kilometres an hour, and he's probably doing less because, the GPSs are slow to react. I want you to watch. This is the 4 jets in action, and this is our subject. Right, can we watch that again? Right, so what order do we see? Because by the way, you have an on-ramp jet, right? When we talk about these 4 things, going in action. You start out with one, but pretty soon you end up in the grips of all four. Okay, let's pause it, pause. What was his first, which jet do you think showed up first? I think it's first. Trying to be controlled. Like, he's trying to control the speed of a car. Can he control the speed of a car? Of someone else's car? At best, he's a speed hump. Right? That's his best opportunity to slow down a car. To be a speed hump. So then it went from being controlled. What happened next? Because if you had audio, you'd hear the driver. The driver's like, oh, fuck off. It's an Australian video. It's very Australian. It's a great Australian accent. So as our favourite red hat, I like to think of it as a MAGA hat. As our favourite guy who's crossing the road, not because I'm a MAGA fan, I'm making fun of him for being correct. Anyway, sorry, political views aside. This guy here, as he's crossing the road, we've gone from being controlled. The next thing that he does, as he's trying to, what happens next? Be right. Because then he doubles down, he's like, he's like, as if that's going to do anything. And now, so we've gone from being controlled to be right, and now we're about to, if we play again, donk. So good. It's just, that's a perfect pause right there. Like that couldn't be done better. Let's give it up for Scott. He's got a career in this, whatever this is. So as he's walking to the pole, his next reaction, what's his next thing that he does? And this is like me when I trip over, right? The next thing is, let's hit play. Look good, right? He's like, who can I blame for this? It's your fault. It's not my fault because I can't look bad, right? And that's what he's doing here, is he wants to blame them. And so he's gone and he's done this full Venn diagram, be controlled, to be right, to look good, and I don't know, maybe feel good came in there a little bit at the end. But that's how this works with you and I. It's how it works in our teams. And the way this really messes people up is when you are leading a team very, very poorly. I'm going to just end with this. Bring this back. Not only do I have to look good, but in order for me to look good, you all have to look bad. You want to fuck up a startup? Operate from that place, right? Not only do I have to feel good, but I'm going to use your pain to make me feel better. Not only do I need to be right, but no one else is ever allowed to be right. We can't both be right. You have to be wrong. I'm going to be in control of every single thing that you do. It's called micromanaging. Anyone here been under the power or grips of a micromanager? How great was that? It's probably why you're all doing startups. This is why we all do this, right? So this here, and it gets, but there's different levels of that because it gets slightly better. Is I have to look good, and I need you to look good too, so that I don't look bad. That's the next level that's slightly better, right? You can see how that's like, I need to look good, and I need you to look good, otherwise I look kind of bad because you're working with me. Does that make sense? And then I need to feel good, and I need you to feel good too. Everyone here needs to feel good. That's absolutely cancerous within a culture. And I think I'm running out of time, right? Yep.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I was going to ask you guys are going to have another discussion about something. We don't have time for that. Sorry for taking so long.
No,
any
all good.
questions that we're doing now?
We've got some time. That's probably why we're winding up, so we can have some questions if that's okay.
Yeah.
Do you ride a Vespa now because of your experience in the rain?
Yes, it's much faster. Wetter, but faster. No, I actually have this cool blanket thing. Let me tell you about this. I'm going to brag about this.
That's so cool.
So it's like this. You can buy them for Vespas. I'm going to dig in on how nerdy I am. So it's like this blanket thing, and it covers your legs. And not only that, it keeps you dry when it's raining, but it traps the heat from the radiator underneath that blanket. So it's like, 10 degrees outside, 30 degrees under that blanket, baby. It is amazing. And I also have special Vespa pants with thermal lining. Any other interesting questions about Vespas?
Well, it's not about Vespa.
Oh, okay, fine.
Very cool pants, James.
Yeah, thank you.
So this is really interesting, and I'm sure, like a lot of people, I'm reflecting on a number of my working environments or experiences where I've thought, oh yeah, I've definitely had that. As we're building our startup, are there questions that we can be asking ourselves every morning and telling ourselves every morning to be avoiding this as much as possible?
Yes. So we call it the antidote to all this. I'm glad you mentioned it. I should have talked about it. The antidote to this, if we call it, so this is the 4 desires, the 4 wills. Am I willing to look foolish? Right? So in teams, and I'm working with teams, organisations, stuff like that, when we start our meetings, we come up with this. Actually, one of them actually created a poster that I probably should steal from them so I can give to other people. They've got a poster on all their meeting rooms, and they've got hundreds of meeting rooms. And they have the question, am I willing to look foolish? Am I willing to be uncomfortable? Am I willing to look foolish? Am I willing to be uncomfortable? Am I willing to be curious? Right? Because the opposite of being right isn't being wrong. For a long time I said that. I was presenting at a company one time and I was like, oh yeah, and the opposite is I'm willing to be wrong. And someone put their hands up and said, I think the actual better answer is be curious. I was like, no, I'm right and you... Oh, dang it. Yeah, you're right. And she changed forever this thing that I teach. Anyway, so it's curious. Am I willing to own my stuff? Right? The more I focus on owning... It's not about... I don't have to focus on not micromanaging when I'm focusing on owning my stuff. It's one of those things where I don't need to worry about controlling others if I'm focusing on taking ownership of my perceptions and my actions. And so literally every morning, I have a thing where I'm like, okay, I'm willing to look foolish, and as you've probably seen, I ride a Vespa, so I start out my day looking like a giant on a Vespa. So pretty foolish, right? So looking foolish, am I willing to feel uncomfortable? I'm riding a Vespa, I feel uncomfortable, right? And then am I willing to be curious? Am I willing to take ownership of these things? It's amazing what happens in your day, in your teams, in your culture that you're creating within your startup when you begin to integrate these into the culture. Did that answer your question? Brilliant. Thank you for pointing out that I'd forgotten that. So,
I'm curious.
yeah, I love it.
Awesome talk, James. My question is, do you have a book yet with this model?
No.
You should write one.
I've tried writing a book. I get bored. Seriously. Yeah.
Get someone to write it for you.
Yeah. Yeah,
volunteering, Jack? Any other questions?
But I'm happy to come chat to whatever team you have or whatever. Yeah, anyway.
Have you got any tips or tricks to maybe be baby steps towards those feeling uncomfortable? Or, I've heard about things like, if you go in and ask someone for a discount for something, just to put yourself in a position where you have to just get rejected over and over again or feel awkward or whatever. But have you got any kind of quick tips or tricks to get to that point?
Yeah, build them into your day. Do stuff that you... Like, I'm not joking. I ride a Vespa because it keeps me humble. Right? It keeps me like, well, I'm willing to look foolish. Or you show up to your client's meeting and they're like, they're all in Mercedes SUVs and stuff, and you're like, I'm on a Vespa. Right?
Talk on that.
On a Mercedes?
No. Being curious and having fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Taking that risk.
Totally. Yeah.
I'm up to mischief all the time.
I have no doubt. But it was these things. I literally build them in the very beginning of my day, and it's one of those things where there's no real secret to it. You just build them in. You put reminders up. So, do you have offices that you have with your team or anything like that, or co-working space? Yeah.
And everybody can work.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, where they put up on, because one of the things where these go rampant, be right, look good, feel good, be in control, is in meetings, right? So, I worked with a car organisation, they make vehicles, and their meeting times were dropped by 60% by integrating this. 60% shorter meetings, who wants that? Right? Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, James. Do you have any kind of advice on staff who maybe don't tick 3 of those 4 boxes, or don't tick 1, or
yeah.
Like, do you have a kind of threshold where you go, if someone doesn't buy into this, then you're out? Like, what's your kind of...
Yeah, that'd be a great thing to be right about. So anytime you're creating a culture, the fastest way to do it is to model it and to make requests of your staff. Hey, this is who we're heading. This is where we're growing to becoming. If this doesn't sound like something you want to do, then maybe let me free up your time for something else. Right? When we owned the gym, we did this a lot. Right? We'd have, people who worked at the gym who, isn't it funny that I owned a gym? I did my wife worked there, I never went there. But I would do stuff with the staff. My wife's an athlete, she's a beast, she's like, anyway. If you knew her, you'd be like, yeah, that makes sense, she was there. When we did stuff with the staff, we would often focus on this, and one of our big, so we didn't really have KPIs. We did how much are you living in this space versus living in the will space. And we would have constant conversations, and eventually what we discovered is that people got sick of being asked to do these things, and they just quit. Right? Because there's some people who just don't want to change, and eventually when they realise, oh, this place isn't for me. One of my things I'm most proud of is I have a leadership training program that I put people through, or it's like an hour a week thing, and this is a big part of it. And any time I do it with an organisation, there's usually 15 to 20% of people who quit. It's very successful when you want to downsize. But people quit because within 3 to 6 months, in fact, I know there's actually people in this room who quit a job because they were committed, their workplace went through this, they were committed to integrating this into their life, the boss wasn't, and so they quit. Right? And that's where they're like, well, I want to be in a culture where this is, and I'm not seeing it, and it's not happening, I'm out. And that's what happens, because when you discover this and you start integrating into your life, you're like, I don't like being around people who just want to look good all the time. It becomes like, now you have a name for it, now you got language for it, because we have an inkling for it in our guts. Like when we're sitting in a meeting, like, this meeting sucks, and it's because of this. Now you have language for it, right? It's like nails on a chalkboard. You're like, I can't go to work and listen to that every day, right? And you're probably feeling that with the people who you're saying, do you have any advice for getting rid of these people, right? But I would say, just start integrating from the top down and see what happens. I mean, it's that simple. Yes. Do you know how to do it?
No, I was just saying, I feel like it's the permission to give to the room to call bullshit.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just feel. It's okay. Great. Yeah, I feel like it's the permission to give to your team to say, I call bullshit. Can we talk? Let's really talk about this. Let's be vulnerable. Can we be honest here?
Yeah. And by the way, the best way to do that, just the language around that.
Yeah,
hey, is anyone else?
Sorry about the language. Yes.
No, not that language. That language is fine. It's my mum who doesn't like it. I'm okay with it. What was I saying? The best way to do this. Hey, is anyone else feeling the desire to be right? Is anyone else feeling the desire to look good right now? And just ask the room, and you say, because I'm feeling it. It's happening in me. And one of the things we know is if it's happening in one person in the room, it's happening in pretty much everyone in the room. So always call it out in yourself first, rather than like, you just want to be right, because now we're over in this territory and this territory ourselves. And so by taking ownership of this yourself and calling it out in yourself and going, I'm feeling this. Anyone else? Okay, can we commit to being curious right now and a willingness to discomfort and to, whatever.
James?
Yes.
Curtis? Fear.
Yes. So, fear of opinion, fear of pain, fear of the unknown, fear of accountability.
Do you know what I learned as a kid?
I reckon you're going to tell me.
Laugh. When I was faced with fear, when I was getting told off by Dad, I would laugh.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll have a breakthrough. And through my life, I've been faced with some pretty challenging stuff, but I found a joke in it and got through.
Find a joke.
Find a joke. Socks.
Chuck it on the Venn diagram.
Change it. You get stuck in that fearful thought, and I said, right, I'll give it a crack. And I've changed.
Yeah.
All right. Very cool. Guys, we are at the time. So I just want to thank you so much, James. That was amazing. Hope you all got something out of that. If you are interested in downsizing your organisation, how do people get in touch with you? LinkedIn? Email?
For me?
Yeah.
I've got the slide somewhere.
Oh, okay. Hit us up. We'll get you in contact with James.
Yeah.
Google him.
Just
He's
email
there.
me, call me,
Lead different.
whatever.
Lead different. Awesome. Don't forget, in 2 weeks' time, you can learn about how to hire people from overseas with Nat from Tech Visa. That's going to be awesome. And if you're interested in pitching a startup in 4 weeks' time, get in touch with me or contact@morningstartup.com. Thanks, guys. Enjoy the food, and we'll throw furniture at you. But never mind. See you in 2 weeks. Cheers.